Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Ether Tale Radio Theater. I'm your host, Scott Paulson. With me tonight is Barbara Henderson.
Good evening, Scott.
That was the sound check, and it was successful, apparently. Karen Fisher.
Good evening.
She's using the same mic, so that turned out fine. And Gabriel Pan is on the mic over there.
Hi there.
His was the one we were worried about, but apparently it's fine. And we're ready for airtime, I feel, after that mic check. And we're super ready because I didn't bring anything from home. Like I didn't bring my harp, I didn't bring my slapsticks, I didn't bring all my bells and whistles, so many that you can't stand it. Tonight, because it's National Poetry Month, we're reading some of our favorite poems. But before we begin, there are a couple books I want to talk about, especially A Place for Us, the premiere novel from Fatima, Farheen Mirza. Spectacular story. It took her 8 years to write it, and it shows. It's amazing. It is a New York Times bestseller, and it is the first offering from Sarah Jessica Parker's fancy new imprint for Hogarth. It's also available on ebook and audio from Penguin Random House. But, Sarah Jessica Parker really is a book fan. And this was the first book she chose to be on her special imprint. And I can see why she chose this item. It's just amazing. It's a story about a family that's gathering for an important photo at a wedding. That's how it opens. And in the course of the book, you find out the many small things that happened within this family that made it difficult for that photo to happen. It's many of the themes in this book come from the author's life. She's a beautiful American girl who has a degree in creative writing and is set for success. That's who she is. And she was able to take some elements of her family life to talk about an Indian Muslim family that's living in California and living an American life. And it's beautiful. And I can see why Sarah Jessica Parker chose it. The author's really able to reveal all of the characters' feelings about religion and family and ambition, and it's fair to everyone, and you hear everyone's point of view. It's just amazing. And I've heard recently that it's on the short list for the New York City read, their version of one book. And I happen to know it's also on the short list of San Diego's One Book, One San Diego. The voting continues, and it's announced in August, but I'm rooting for this book, A Place for Us by Fatima, Farheen Mirza. Oh, I hope you can get a copy and read it. I just loved this book. And I had a chance to meet her quite by accident yesterday at the La Jolla Country Club when there was a very important meeting of a very fancy literary society where she was speaking. And it happened to be her birthday, and she was surprised with a special birthday cake. And I was surprised because I ended up being seated next to her at the author table through a set of accidents worthy of a Seinfeld episode and worthy of a Cosmo Kramer moment where people misunderstand who he is, and there he is. But there were no incidents. I'm happy to report. It was just a beautiful day where she talked about the book, and people cried for all the right reasons when she talked about her book and her journey. So I recommend that. Another book that I've been recommending just with that One Book, One San Diego for the teen book, which they prefer to be a graphic novel, is I definitely was recommended Gris Grimley's Frankenstein. It uses the words of Mary Shelley edited down to a shorter level, and beautiful, beautiful imagery from Gris Grimley. And it's just amazing. And you've got to get this book. It's just, and I've read Frankenstein. We celebrated the bicentennial of it recently here on this radio show. And I read it carefully, but somehow the graphic novel made me read it even more carefully, like the beautiful letter from Dr. Frankenstein's mother. In the actual novel, blah, 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 skim, skim, skim. But in this graphic novel, because they showed it as a letter in an elegant handwriting of someone's mother, I slowed down and I really read it, and it was just so much more meaningful. And it's great to get teenagers to read some classics as reimagined as graphic novel. I can see why the One Book, One San Diego people like to choose graphic novel for the teen scene. And another book that I had been recommending, and I still like, We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix. It's a horror novel, and I would have loved for it to be on the short list, but I doubt it'll make it to the short list. But I'm so glad that someone recommended this book and nominated this book for One Book, One San Diego. You're all welcome to nominate, by the way, and that usually happens in the month of February, and it goes on for at least a month. So remember, mark your calendars, next February. But this horror book is amazing from Grady Hendrix, and I do recommend it, especially because it looks so handsome. It's got a beautiful dust cover. When you remove the dust cover, it has a satanic engraved silver message that you can only read through a mirror because it's reversed. And the edges of the pages are gilded black. So it's a great presentation. Now it's time to move on to National Poetry Month. I've got a few exhibits at the UC San Diego Library to celebrate National Poetry Month. You know that April 18th is Poem in Your Pocket Day. I know you knew that, everyone out there listening in Radio Land. And so next week and all that week, I'm going to have a lot of rolled up, scrolled up little poems that you can put in your pocket and read later. So stop by the library. At the Biomedical Library building, the poems will be medicine and science oriented. And at Geisel Library, near the Audrey's Cafe, there'll be the Poem in Your Pocket offerings that were recommended by the National Poetry Month peoples. And in the research services area, I'm displaying these spectacular bee specimens that were given to the library by a PhD graduate. And we've displayed all kinds of bee poems all around those boxed specimens. So that's kind of fun. And spoiler alert, in a couple weeks when we meet here again, we're doing all bee poems all day. So it's worth tuning in for, trust me. But in the meantime, here we are now with a more general poetry theme. And Gabriel Pan has chosen 3 poems that were meaningful to him that he wants to share with our listeners. And he is the great voice of our radio show. So, Gabriel Pan, could you say hello to the audience out there and share your poems with them?
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Got a few the run-up here on the National Poetry Month, April. And I wanted to go ahead and start off with one of my favorite poets, my favorite authors, Rudyard Kipling. Everybody knows him from The Jungle Book and Mowgli's Tales and the cartoons that Disney put out and the live-action feature that just recently came out. But he was a very, very prolific author, wrote lots and lots of newspaper articles. He was a journalist first and foremost. Then he was short story writer, poet, and a novelist, all in his 70 years. He died in 1907 and won the Nobel Prize for Literature as one of the youngest authors in the history of the Nobel Prize. But for most of his poetry, people remember things like The Thousandth Man. But I chose a couple of ones that were a little bit off the beaten track simply because they were quite interesting. The first one is Ballad of the King's Jest. It's a cautionary tale about going ahead and speaking too much or saying too much. This is called The Ballad of the King's Jest by Rudyard Kipling. When springtime flushes the desert grass, our kafilas wind through the Khyber Pass. Lean are the camels, but fat the frails. Light are the purses, but heavy the bales. As the snowbound trade of the north comes down to the market square of Peshawar town. In the turquoise twilight crisp and chill, a kafila camped at the foot of the hill. The blue smoke haze of the cooking rose, and tent peg answered to hammer nose. And the picketed ponies shag and wild strained at the ropes as the feed was piled. And the bubbling camels beside the load sprawled for a furlong adown the road. And the Persian pussycats brought for sale spat at the dogs from the camel bale. and the tribesmen bellowed to hasten the food, and the campfires twinkled by Fort Jumrood. And there fled on the wings of the gathering dusk a savor of camels and carpets and musk, a murmur of voices, a reek of smoke, to tell us the trade of the Khyber had woke. The lid of the flesh pot chattered high, the knives were whetted, and then came I, to Mabab Ali, the muleteer, patching his bridles and counting his gear, crammed with the gossip of half a year. But Mabab Ali the kindly said, "Better is speech when the belly is fed." So he plunged the hand to the mid-wrist deep, in a cinnamon stew of the fat-tailed sheep. And he who never hath tasted the food, by Allah he knoweth not bad from good. We cleansed our beards of the mutton grease, we lay on the mats and were filled with peace. And the talk slid north, and the talk slid south, with the sliding puffs from the hookah mouth. 4 things greater than all things are, women and horses and power and war. We spake of them all, but the last the most, for I sought word of a Russian post, of a shifty promise, an unsheathed sword, and a grey-coat guard on the helmed ford. Then Mabab Ali lowered his eyes in the fashion of one who is weaving lies. Quoth he, "Of the Russians who can say, when the night is gathering, all is grey. But we look that the gloom of the night shall die in the morning flush of a blood-red sky. Friend of my heart, is it meet or wise to warn a king of his enemies? We know what heaven or hell may bring, but no man knoweth the mind of the king. That unsought counsel is cursed of God, attesteth the story of Wali Dad. His sire was leaky of tongue and pen, his dam was a clucking cuttock hen, and the cold bread close to the vice of each, for he carried the curse of an unstanched speech. There with madness, so that he sought the favour of kings at the Kabul court, and travelled in hope of honour far, to the line where the grey-coat squadrons are. There have I journeyed too, but I saw not, said not, and did not die. He harked to rumour and snatched at a breath of this one knoweth, and that one saith. Legends that ran from mouth to mouth, of a grey-coat coming and a sack of the south. These have I also heard. They pass with each new spring and winter grass. Hot foot southward, forgotten of God, back to the city ran Wali Dad. Even to Kabul in full durbar, the king held talk with his chief in war. Into the press of the crowd he broke, and what he had heard of the coming spoke. Then Golem Hyder, the red chief, smiled, as a mother might on a babbling child. But those who would laugh restrained their breath, when the face of the king showed dark as death. Evil it is in full durbar to cry to a ruler of gathering war. Slowly he led to a peach tree small that grew by a cleft in the city wall. And he said to the boy, "They shall praise thy zeal, so long as the red spurt follows the steel. And the Rus is upon us even now. Great is thy prudence, await them thou. Watch from the tree, thou art young and strong. Surely thy vigil will not be for long. The Rus is upon us, thy clamour ran. Surely an hour shall bring thy van. Wait and watch. When the host is near, shout aloud that my men may hear." Friend of my heart, is it meet or wise to warn a king of his enemies? The guard was set that he might not flee. A score of bayonets ringed the tree. The peach bloom fell in showers of snow, when he shook at his death as he looked below. By the power of God, who alone is great, till the 7th day he fought with his fate. Then madness took him, and men declare he mowed in the branches as ape and bear. And last as a sloth ere his body failed, and he hung as a bat in the forks and wailed. And sleep the cord of his hands untied, and he fell and was caught on the points and died. Heart of my heart, is it meet or wise to warn a king of his enemies? We know what heaven or hell may bring, but no man knoweth the mind of the king. Of the grey coat coming, who can say? When the night is gathering, all is grey. 2 things greater than all things are. The first is love, the second is war. And since we know not how war may prove, heart of my heart, let us talk of love. That was the tale of the king. It's really kind of neat to go ahead and watch how Kipling weaves his tales and gets so colorful. You'll note the scents and the sounds of the trails and the camels and all the scents of the food. He's very, very good at giving you a setting that makes you feel something.
Well, even wiping the mutton off their beards.
So colorful.
I love that.
Yeah, you get the feeling of being there. It was a time of desperate adventure, and we romanticize it an awful lot. But there is still a lot that he works with that goes ahead and gives you such a great flavor.
And it's not without colonial controversy. But that was a beautiful poem.
Oh, absolutely. And the next one that I went on with is called The Code of Morals. It's actually a funnier piece, also by Kipling. And this will go ahead and give you a flavor of just how much fun he could actually have. A Code of Morals by Rudyard Kipling. Now Jones had his new wed bride to keep his house in order and hide away to the Haram Hills above the Afghan border, to sit on a rock with a heliograph, but here he left, he taught, his wife the working of the code that sets the miles at naught. And love had made him very sage, as nature made her fair, so Cupid and Apollo linked per heliograph the pair. At dawn across the Haram Hills he flashed her counsel wise, and e'en the dying sunset bore her husband's homilies. He warned her 'gainst seductive use in scarlet clad and gold, as much as 'gainst the blandishments paternal of the old. But he kept his gravest warnings for, hereby the ditty hangs, that snowy-haired Lothario, Lieutenant General Bangs. 'Twas General Bangs with aid and staff, who titupped on the way, when they beheld a heliograph tempestuously at play. They thought of border risings and of stations sacked and burnt, so stopped to take the message down. And this is what they learnt. Dash dot dot and dot dot dash twice, the general swore. Was ever a general officer addressed as dear before? My love, my faith, my duck, gadzooks, my darling Popsy Wop. Spirit of the great Lord Wolsey, who is on that mountain top? The artless aide-de-camp was mute. The gilded staff were still. As dumb with pent-up mirth, they booked that message from the hill. For clear as summer lightning flare, the husband's warning ran. Don't dance or ride with General Bangs, a most immoral man. At dawn across the Haram Hills, he flashed her counsel wise. But howsoever love be blind, the world at large hath eyes. With damnatory dot and dash, he heliographed his wife. Some interesting details of the general's private life. The artless aide-de-camp was mute, the shining staff were still, and red and ever redder grew the general's shaven gill. And this is what he said at last. His feelings matter not. I think we've tapped a private line. Hi, three's about there, trot. All honor unto Bangs, for never did Jones thereafter know, by word or official act, who read off that helio. But the tale is on the frontier, and from Michni to Multan, they know the worthy general as that most immoral man.
It would be so great if we still had the dash 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 world around us. Morse code. It's been given its funeral, but we got to bring it back.
Yeah, that was I think an early testament to the dangers of social media.
I was just going to say hitting send all.
Absolutely.
Right.
These are some mistakes you can't take back. And to end this one, and my little segment here, I'm going to go ahead and do a little sadder poem. It's one by Edgar Allan Poe. I really love him as an author. But this one in particular, although Poe is really a little bit sad if you think about it. But this one is called Annabel Lee. It's a wonderful little poem that he wrote about a boy in love with a girl. So Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee. With a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, a-chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, That was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea.
That is so sad and so romantic, Gabriel Pan. Thank you for that Edgar Allan Poe poem. At the exhibit at the Biomedical Library building on campus at UC San Diego, the Biomedical Library building, we do have Edgar Allan Poe represented in the theme of the science and medicine. Gabriel Pan is a hard act to follow, but I will read a very short Edgar Allan Poe poem that fits in with a science theme. Sonnet to Science by Edgar Allan Poe. Science, true daughter of old time thou art, who alterest all things with thy peering eyes. Why preyest thou thus upon the poet's heart? Vulture, whose wings are dull realities, how should he love thee, or how deem thee wise? Who wouldst not leave him in his wandering, to seek for treasure in the jeweled skies? Albeit he soared with an undaunted wing, hast thou not dragged Diana from her car, and driven the Hamadryad from the wood to seek a shelter in some happier star? Hast thou not torn the Naiad from her flood, the elfin from the green grass, and from me, the summer dream beneath the tamarind tree? So there are some interesting science poems represented in the Biomedical Library building. Breezeway, it's so much fun to take over all the exhibit cases with poems. And in that case, you'll see a lot of William Carlos Williams, of course, who was a physician and poet, and a lot of surprises that are not in the public domain, so we cannot read them on the show tonight. Now, Barbara, you have some poems that you brought in that are meaningful to you.
Thanks, Scott. Yes, I do. The first one is by Robert Frost, and of course, I think most of us know him from Fog and Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. This one I came across in preparation for the show just because we have such a wonderful display of wildflowers and flowers throughout California right now. And I think the thing that struck me about it most was he was born in 1874, so in my mind more obviously old-fashioned than today, but what he's really talking about is a theme that we seem to encounter a lot: mindfulness, being present in the moment, and the difference that makes. Prayer in Spring, Robert Frost. Oh, give us pleasure in the flowers today, and give us not to think, so far away as the uncertain harvest. Keep us here, all simply in the springing of the year. Oh, give us pleasure in the orchard white, like nothing else by day, like ghosts by night, and make us happy in the happy bees, the swarm dilating round the perfect trees. And make us happy in the darting bird that suddenly above the bees is heard, the meteor that thrusts in with needle bill and off a blossom in mid-air stands still. For this is love, and nothing else is love, the which it is reserved for God above to sanctify to what far ends he will, but which it only needs that we fulfill.
Ooh, thank you, Barbara. You've got a couple more there, don't you?
I do, and I didn't realize that your exhibit had William Carlos Williams. I just happened to have chosen him.
Excellent.
Also one spring, about spring, but with a little different view. Spring Storm, William Carlos Williams. The sky has given over its bitterness. Out of the dark change all day long, rain falls and falls as if it would never end. Still, the snow keeps its hold on the ground. But water from 1,000 runnels, it collects swiftly, dappled with black, cuts away for itself through green ice in the gutters. Drop after drop, it falls from the withered grass stems of the overhanging embankment. Then
it's like you meant to pick that poet. Thank you, Barbara.
I know. I thought that was a wonderful coincidence. The third poem I chose is one that has stayed in my mind probably for decades. When we get to the final line, you may also recognize it. You've heard it sometime. The thing that again surprised me, I guess, was the relevance of it, because this is by John Milton, born in 1608. And I always had thought for many years that the title of this was On His Blindness by John Milton. But the title is actually the first line of the poem, When I Consider How My Light is Spent. Light and spent are referring to his blindness. And some of the wording of this I found maybe took me a little more time to think through, but still the relevance of it and the fact that it comes into my mind on many occasions just fascinates me, that how many centuries separate us and yet how that message has resonated. When I Consider How My Light is Spent by John Milton. When I consider how my light is spent, ere half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent which is death to hide, lodged with me useless, though my soul more bent to serve therewith my Maker, and present my true account, lest he returning chide. Doth God exact day labor light denied, I fondly ask, but patience, to prevent that murmur, soon replies, God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. Who best bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. His state is kingly, thousands at his bidding speed, and post o'er land and ocean without rest. They also serve, who only stand and wait.
And there's that classic final line in its true context. Thank you, Barbara. Those are wonderful choices.
Thanks,
So
Scott.
Appreciative.
Appreciate the opportunity to share them.
And we're celebrating National Poetry Month. It's true, ladies and gentlemen. And, my special guest is here, Karen Fisher. And you've got a book that I chose for you. I was going through my mother's things, and I came across this great book edited by Caroline Kennedy. And I'm trying to read the title upside down. It's entitled to be titled Poems to Learn by Heart.
Yes, and it's a lovely book. I commented on the fact that it would be a great gift for a young family or a new baby in the family, perhaps.
Yes, and the poems are on the shorter side, so they're easier to memorize, and have some wonderful family themes in them as well.
Yes, and they're all illustrated. Paintings by John J. Muth. They're all beautifully illustrated with paintings on each page.
So we recommend this book, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, I highly recommend it. I hadn't heard of it before. So, thank you. I chose a Lewis Carroll poem to read tonight. It's entitled Brother and Sister.
It is entitled to be titled that, and it's one of my favorites. I'm glad you picked it.
Sister, sister, go to bed. Go and rest your weary head. Thus the prudent brother said. Do you want a battered hide or scratches to your face applied? Thus the sister calm replied. Sister, do not raise my wrath. I'd make you into mutton broth as easily as kill a moth. The sister raised her beaming eye and looked upon him indignantly and sternly answered, Only try. Off to the cook he quickly ran. Dear cook, please lend a frying pan to me as quickly as you can. And wherefore should I lend it to you? The reason, cook, is plain to view. I wish to make an Irish stew. What meat is in that stew to go? My sister'll be the contents. Oh! You'll lend the pan to me, cook? No! Moral. Never stew your sister.
Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. Never stew your
Words
sister.
to live by.
I'm sure that would be a favorite.
Especially if you
Reading
knew
it to
my
child.
sisters and my relationship. We're roommates this year, and we have a much healthier relationship now.
And there are so many poems to choose from in this book, but this one is by a very famous author. You may have heard of them. Their work spans many ages, actually.
Really?
Yes. Anonymous.
The prolific Anonymous, yes. And that implies it'll be in the public domain, too, so that's great.
Yes. And this one's very short and sweet. Don't worry if your job is small, by Anonymous. Don't worry if your job is small and your rewards are few. Remember that the mighty oak was once a nut like you.
That one probably is easily memorized.
And it almost fits on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Those are, I did pick out this one, but I don't know if you want to have it read yet.
I would love to have it read.
Okay.
We pay you per word, too, so go for it.
Well, in anticipation, I suppose we might be reading it next time on the show.
Oh, no, that's okay. Well, we can do a spoiler alert that is this one that's going to be bees, bees, bees all the time, bees? Or?
B, I'm expecting you.
Okay. I'd love to hear it.
It's by Emily Dickenson. B, I'm expecting you, was saying yesterday to somebody you know that you were due. The frogs got home last week, are settled and at work. Birds mostly back, the clover warm and thick. You'll get my letter by the 17th. Reply, or better, be with me. Yours, Fly.
Brava. Thank you. Thank you, Karen Fisher, for those wonderful choices.
Thank you for sharing the book. It's great.
Do you want to borrow it?
Maybe.
That's well. That's be one less thing for me to carry home. And I do love that book. That was a book that I know my mother wanted, and so for once I gave her a gift that wasn't the same bottle of Niki de Saint-Phalle perfume that she was saying, please stop buying Niki de Saint-Phalle perfume. And I was buying it because I wanted the sculptures that were on top of the perfume, because I knew I was going to be doing a big Niki de Saint-Phalle exhibit at the library. So, oh well. Now, I just want to remind people about other events that are coming up before we go on to another topic. Let's see. I've got a calendar here with me. The Independent Bookstore Day is April 27th. And for those of you listening to us live in the year 2019, it's April 27th. And there'll be events at many of the independent bookstores in San Diego. And there's even a book crawl, which is, I guess, it's kind of like a pub crawl, but you know, a little bit more appropriate for entire families. And you'll be seeing information in the newspaper about that, or you can go on to Al Gore's interwebs and just type in San Diego Book Crawl, and you'll get a lot more information.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes, and on May 14th of this year, 2019, we're hosting a Blade Runner 2019 event. I could not let the year 2019 pass without hosting a Blade Runner event at the library. That spaceship-looking Geisel library. I remember seeing that movie live, first run, in the theaters, and one of the first things that happens on the screen is a date line, tickety-type, that comes across the screen, and it says Los Angeles, 2019. And I remember thinking, that's so far away. Well, here we are. And because, it's for a timely return to talk about the movie, it's 2019, so there'll be a panel. I've asked Stephen Potts to moderate a panel featuring David Brin, Paul Salmon, and Mike Davis, and you'll be getting more information about that soon, but that is a panel discussion at 6 p.m. on May 14th, reception at 7 p.m., because you have to clear out the theater. The film screening's at 8 p.m. You have to sign up separately for the panel discussion and film screening. Maybe some people can only make one or not the other. Will you try to go, Karen Fisher?
Yes, I will. I love
Excellent.
that movie. Did you see the new one that came out?
Yeah, I liked it very much. But so I'll give you this flyer to remind you to put it on your calendar.
Thank you.
Other events coming up, I'm doing a not-so-silent short film festival for the Vanguard Culture people at their fantastic IDEO 1 building. June 22, the theme is Women Film Pioneers, silent films from women. July 6th, Innovative Inventors, which is actually a slapstick topic for these silent films again. And on August 3rd, Steampunk Celluloid Soiree. Ooh, I just realized I spelled celluloid wrong on this flyer. Oh, well, no one's going to notice. No one's going to notice. It's a silent film festival at that site, and they're going to have gourmet popcorn and gourmet cocktails. In my country, we call them cocktails, but I should call it cocktails. But anyway, and that is loosely associated with the exhibition that I'm doing at Wisteria Cottage all summer long, from June 8th through September 8th, History in Motion, Devices and Wizardry in Early Cinema, sort of a vintage multimedia exhibit that I'm doing at Wisteria Cottage, a revisit of some exhibits I've done at Guy's Library in the past, involving magic lanterns and Victorian-era stereoscopes, and the wonderful films from La Jolla Cinema League, an independent group of filmmakers in La Jolla from the 1920s who made wonderful silent films that still hold up to this day.
Oh, wow.
They were associated with the Amateur Cinema League, but amateur meant something a little different back then. Maybe it meant more like independent. So that's quite spectacular. And I want to, before I read the traditional closing story from Liam Flynn, I just want to thank again everyone for the opportunity where I met Fatima Farheen Mirza when she spoke about her book, A Place for Us.
That does sound wonderful.
And it was a beautiful affair at the La Jolla Country Club that I wasn't supposed to be at. But because of some wonderful accidents, I was there. Word got out that I wanted to hear the author because of this situation with One Book, One San Diego, where we're wanting to hear the author speak either on YouTube or in person. And Claire Pister from KPBS asked if anyone was able to go. She didn't say where it was, which I know the who, and I knew the book, so I said I could do it. And Fatima's speaking engagement agent, Miriam Foyerle, somehow pulled some strings, and Kelly Parnell Colvard, who is an officer, a special events person at Northern Trust, and the head of a very powerful local literary society, managed to somehow get me at the author table. She probably didn't intend to seat me next to the author, but that's how it worked out. I'm telling you, Kelly, when people started placing themselves at the table, I told them that those two seats were for the author and someone who I didn't know. I told them that.
So not your fault.
It's not my fault. Anyway.
I think it was meant to be.
Well, I was very lucky, and people really did cry for all the right reasons when she talked about her book. For beautiful reasons, and for sad reasons, and for sentimental reasons, and for joyous reasons, people cried. So she's a wonderful public speaker. So thank you to all those people. Even Melissa Arnson, another executive of Northern Trust, who was entrusted to drive Fatima from the airport and to her hotel, and it's so wonderful when these officers at these important, offices. This one's like a wealth management office, and Melissa Arnson, somebody, but she also was Fatima's driver that day, and I bet you that was a good gig for her. So shout out to Melissa and Kelly and Fatima. And Miriam Foyerle, and I'm just going over that name real hard because I don't know how to pronounce it. But so, yes, I do, as usual, want to close with a prose poem. This is National Poetry Month, after all, from young Liam Flynn, who's the son of Peter Flynn, who is our sound technician here. And Are you? You should sit in front of a hot microphone, Liam, because it's always funny to hear you laugh at your own story as I read it. Thank you, Barbie. So gracious. All right, so you're comfortable, and I'm going to read Liam Flynn's prose poem for National Poetry Month. This is how we'll close the show today. Greetings from Planet Sweatpants in Sweatpants Universe. Today, Patrick, who is bald and has a very shiny head, ended up going to Taco Sweatpants, then the movie theater. First, he went to an all-you-can-eat buffet for breakfast and cleaned out all the food, and the restaurant had to close until they got another delivery of food. After breakfast, Patrick met up with his friend Herbert at Sweatpants Electronics. The two of them looked at everything in the whole store and made sure to write fart 1,000,000 times on 1,000,000 computers and leave it there for everyone to see. They got multiple funny questions and comments about it while they were doing their dirty work. After Sweatpants Electronics, they went to Taco Sweatpants for lunch. Patrick ordered 6 bean and cheese burritos, 6 bean tostadas, 6 bean tacos, and 6 quesadillas, as Herbert ordered a normal-sized person's portion. They both ate quickly and headed off to Sweatpants Co. At Sweatpants Co., Patrick and Robert went to all the samples multiple times, used mayonnaise as an instrument, and just fooled around before going to Sweatpants Pizza for dinner. When they were having dinner at Sweatpants Pizza, Patrick put pizza in his water to make gray water. Herbert then lectured him on how gross and rude it is. Right after they left Sweatpants Pizza to go see a movie, they immediately closed permanently because everyone was making gray water by putting pizza in water. In the movie theater, Patrick kept farting, and Herbert told him to move if he keeps being a distraction to the rest of the audience. He ended up doing a few really big farts that shook the whole building and made everyone evacuate from the smell. Patrick ended up burning a huge hole in his boxers, sweatpants, and the movie theater seat, going all the way down to the floor. The manager, projector man, custodian, and the owner all came in to see what happened. Patrick explained to them the whole thing, and they all started laughing historically. Probably also hysterically, but I think you meant that when you wrote historically. And weren't even a little mad about the damage. The end! Exclamation point. Thank goodness it wasn't a question mark. It's an exclamation point. Thank you. Thank you for that prose poem, Liam Flynn. I sure do appreciate it. And this was another injury-free evening at Ethertail Radio Theater.
At the end of these shows, I always get the hankering to go out for Mexican food.
I wonder why. Now, we should get a corporate sponsor. There's a couple places nearby here that we usually go to. We should get a corporate sponsor. Okay, so we're here, Ethertail Radio Theater, on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of the month. So we'll see you in a couple weeks. And spoiler alert, it's going to be bees, 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 poems about bees.
Be fun.
And there's a lot of beautiful poems about bees, and some very interesting folk tales and history, and some real deep meaning as to why they are so deep and meaningful. So I probably should start flailing my arms about to let Wade Taylor know that we're trying to leave the air. And soon, public domain music will come across the air. Oh, there it is. And that means we can say goodbye. Now remember, no spitting or swearing, everybody, because we're still live on the air.
Attention coaches, authors, speakers, and business owners. Please pay close attention to what I'm about to say if you want to secure massive visibility fast and generate thousands of highly qualified leads without spending a dime on advertising or marketing. The easiest way to make this happen is to appear as a guest on the world's most popular podcast. We recently came across an awesome resource that provides detailed contact information for 240 new media influencers who are looking for guests just like you. you. It's called the Ultimate Directory, and for a limited time, you can get the preview edition of the directory absolutely free. That's right, for free. It's time for you to get the visibility you and your business deserve and connect with the world's leading icons of influence who can make you famous with the push of a button. Get your free preview edition of the Ultimate Directory right now at www.myultimatedirectory.com. That's myultimatedirectory.com.
You were born to do one amazing thing, but most people spend a lifetime trying to identify what it is. If you're in a job you don't like or are unemployed, if you're in a state of transition or just can't shake that nagging feeling that you were meant and made to do something extraordinary, then the Reinvention Workshop is exactly what you need. Led by award-winning self-help author Steve Olsher, the Reinvention Workshop will forever change your life. The Reinvention Workshop takes you step by step through Steve's proven formula that has helped so many people get on the right path and clear about what they were born to do. Take the first step to realizing the life you deserve and desire by visiting the reinventionworkshop.com today. No more delays. No more denial. Reconnect with your true self. Learn to live with purpose and conviction and become who you were born to be. The world is waiting for you. What are you waiting for? Log on to thereinventionworkshop.com today. That's thereinventionworkshop.com.
Too much to do? Not enough time to get it done? Call on the experts at Another 8 Hours for your business support needs. By partnering with Another 8 Hours, we allow you to focus on the more important matters, like being in front of your clients, doing what you do best, rather than being stuck at a desk poring over paperwork, rummaging through emails, returning phone calls, and struggling to get everything done by yourself. Meanwhile, your family and social life are going down the drain. Go to another8hours.com or call 8 more hours. That's 866-734-6877.